Hey guys, welcome to Cuppa Connections. I'm Portia, and we're here coming to you from our virtual cafe, Better with a Cup of Coffee. We are savoring relationships with coffee lovers around the world and sharing their experiences that have been better with a cup of coffee.
Hello, guys. This is day 2 of our epic 19-day road trip, which starts in Asheville, North Carolina. At this point, we are waking up before the sunrise, and we needed some coffee. So we had that Starbucks that was right in the parking lot.
And fabulous.
We walked up in there, and of course, it was like 5 o'clock in the morning. And there was nobody in Starbucks except for the manager and maybe 2 other people. You know, this is what coffee shops are about. I don't care if it's a Starbucks or a small business-owned cafe or whatever you want to call it. You always want someone or a group of people to welcome you and to make you feel like you're special.
And they definitely did that. They were energized, happy. I wanted to come work with them.
She wants to work with everybody.
Not everybody.
Especially the animals.
Oh, yeah, especially because of animals. But I love people that wake up early in the morning and they're happy.
Yes.
And they exude it. They I know.
I know.
I'm like that in the morning and I get on everybody's nerves. And I'm sure.
She's like, "Ah." That's how she is in the morning. But what was so special is that he wanted to know what we were doing, and we told him, right. And we took pictures with him, and he turned around. He wanted to show us the back of his T-shirt, and then they wanted us to sign their guest book. He made us feel like we were some kind of special people, and he was so excited about our road trip, and he just listened to us. And that's what baristas and these people that are in the coffee shops, they really, they get to hear your life story almost, or who you are. And it started our day off perfectly. So we get our coffee and we're off, right?
And I'm driving in the mountains of North Carolina.
It was before the sun rose, so at one point you couldn't see much. But I remember even at the beginning of the trip, I had told my wife, because she'd never driven cross country, and I said, just remember this, because you are going to see the difference of the topography. Every state is different. Like when you're driving through North Carolina and Tennessee, some people could get claustrophobic because they're nothing but trees. People love the greenery, but everything is so close to you. And then when you slowly move into another state, the topography changes. Mm-hmm. So I said, Kate, make a mental note of how things are going to change. It's going to wow you. Like when you drive through Oklahoma or Texas and you see the sunrise or the sunset, it's amazing. And
we drove all the way to Memphis.
We did.
And I steered her.
Well, it's because we were going through the but it was something more than that. I never told her, but I would have nightmares before our trip. I was afraid we were going to drive off the cliff or just drive too fast, or I was having some control issues. And I still have control issues, but it stemmed from fear. So when we were driving along 40 through the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, and I'd be telling her, slow down, slow down, slow down.
And I was doing this thing, it makes it over.
Yeah. And it was just, it was a hard time for me because it all stemmed from when I was adopted. It's just so crazy how, as you are an adult and you're fine one minute and then certain things trigger you. I don't know, I guess it made me think about what in the hell is going on. I mean, I've driven cross country before. I've driven through mountains before. And then all of a sudden my wife is driving and here I am just about holding on for dear life saying, oh my God, stop. While I'm still admiring the beauty, don't get me wrong. And she, bless her, she was so patient with me and she wasn't probing about what was going on with me. We were both trying to enjoy the trip. And finally, it would subside. And I mean, how could it not? We're on this vacation. We're on this 19 epic day road trip. I mean, I'm not going to let something I don't care what it is. I'm not going to let something like that stop me nor my wife from having a great time.
Amen.
Right?
Amen. Yes.
And so we get through the mountains and we find ourselves in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, good old Memphis.
Where the blues was born.
Yeah.
We were camping on that day. Our campsite was the famous T.O. State Fuller Park. And it was the first park in the United States that allowed African Americans to enter. There's this Native American museum next door to the campgrounds where we were, but we decided not to, go to the accommodations first. We needed to go to downtown and see all of that because we broke up our trip.
Yes. Mexican too.
Yes, because
All that driving.
well, my wife has a back issue. The plan was to go from Asheville, North Carolina to Memphis, Tennessee, then to Oklahoma. Do you remember? We were going to camp 2 nights. But I knew that she camping like back to back, something just told me that wasn't going to be a good idea. And we were going to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we were going to stay at this wonderful resort. So I gave my wife these options. I said, well, we can camp 2 nights. We can go from Memphis to Oklahoma and camp both nights. Or why don't we just drive the full 15 hours and stay at a resort for 2 nights? We decided, okay, we're just going to suck it up and we're going to drive 15 hours. See, my wife is a trooper. She will do anything once, but I knew
Except
that
for the landing.
yeah, she didn't do that. We'll talk about that later. But on that second day, we arrived in Memphis, Tennessee, and we said, let's do everything we can for a few hours in downtown Memphis. Everything was very inexpensive to park, and we found Beale Street. I didn't realize that Beale Street was one of the most iconic streets in the U.S.
I didn't realize that either.
It's the home of the blues.
The home of the blues. We went to this record store. Oh, it was so cool. They had all kinds of stars that reminded me of record store in the mountains of North Carolina. When Graham was at school, it had everything.
It did. It had
Everything.
stuff on the columns. There was no inch of that place that had an empty space.
Right.
And I don't know who asked. We were starving at that point. I don't know who asked, if it was me or you. Because when I'm hungry, I'm hungry.
See, she's always the one that's thinking about food.
So I asked this lady, I was like, because I want to know where the locals go to eat. The woman pointed next door. She was like, that's where I go.
I forgot the name of that place.
I forgot the name of the place too, but it was diagonally across the street. And we walked in and it was packed. Thank God it wasn't a sign. It was a good sign. It wasn't a waiting line, but it was packed. And we go in and we had the best server. She was on point. Honey, she brought our plates back and I had ribs stacked up like this and catfish on it and hush puppies and
I had some good hush puppies.
good. It was so good. It was down home, great food. Yeah, I think I had some collard greens too. And I just realized
I remember what I had.
you had some ribs too. Mm-hmm. But we both, before this, we were eating pretty clean and not eating as much. We definitely weren't eating as much fried foods and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But on this trip, we knew that we were just going to succumb to whatever is out there. We're on vacation. Right. And so
Look at the Haywood Grill. Maybe.
which we don't.
Because let me tell you, this grill can fry up some fish. Oh my God.
That's for my mama.
That's
That's for my mama. Okay. I mean, I'm from the South. What do you expect? So anyway, after we finished, we couldn't eat everything, so we took it with us. But our server told us we wanted to go to the Civil Rights Museum.
Yes.
We weren't quite sure where it was. And I'll be honest with you guys. I didn't want to go to the Civil Rights Museum because it was painful. It still is painful to me. I don't understand how people can be so hateful but my wife, She wanted to go. But
No,
I
it's
said,
a way of paying respect to
it
our
is.
history.
It is. I
Even
just,
though it was painful.
absolutely. And me, I had to check myself. I'm a Black woman, not even wanting to find out about my history. So I
You're a
am.
beautiful Black woman in that.
Well, thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
But I had to check myself. And it's like, no, you take your butt into the Civil Rights Museum. This is what you need to do. I think it was probably a good 15-minute walk, not very far from downtown where Beale Street was located. You have the Civil Rights Museum, and then you have the Lorraine Motel where Dr. Martin Luther King was shot. But we walk up and we see this police officer.
She was nice.
She
She was
was
very friendly.
she was trying to get a little break because it was hot as Hades.
Hot as
Hades. It was like record temperatures is over 90 degrees every day. So anyway, this woman, she was there and
She was in a shelter.
I don't know how we got on it, but we ended up giving her our
Our
food.
leftovers, because they were going to spoil, and I wanted to donate the food to somebody, a homeless guy or a homeless person,
Mhm.
just so they can have a good hot meal.
And
And she knew somebody right on.
she yelled across the street.
She did.
And he was like, hey, yeah. And she's like, I got some food for you. I mean, like she knew this man. He was like, yeah. And I mean, he was homeless, but it was just that close community type to where, hey, that was where our food went. And
I
then,
was happy about that. It went to help somebody else.
yeah, it really did. So we walk up a little ways, maybe like a half a block, and we see it's this long grassy walkway down to the museum and the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And either side, they have these poles where they had a display, and each one represented some iconic person. Like Rosa Parks was on one pole. The next one was another iconic person. And it just takes you down this walkway. And then all of a sudden you see the Lorraine Motel. And then the
old
those are car. Oh,
right?
yeah, they were the same cars that were there back when Dr. King was killed.
Mm-hmm.
We go into the museum and it's beautiful. It's so well run. I was reading that every 15 minutes that they let people in.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, because of COVID. And, you don't want to be on top of everybody. You could take photos, but you could not video. You get your admissions, your tickets, which is $18 for adults. It's a timeline type of museum from the beginning of times of when slaves were brought over. So that's where the tour starts. You go into this room and it is detailed so well. And I was hot. It just brought up so much anger for me.
It did me too, and sadness.
Yeah. So I was walking around. It's a small room. And all of a sudden, I hear Spanish. And I turned to my right. It was a Latin family. It was 2 kids, 2 adults. And the kids were teenagers.
Teenagers, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they
were explaining to their parents,
yes.
or grandparents, whatever, that didn't speak any English. They were explaining to them about the history, about what they were reading.
It was such a beautiful thing to see.
Beautiful.
I was kind of invading their moment, but I was just happy that they were there and they were explaining to, their people. That's finished, and you have to go into like a theater, and it's basically a synopsis of what the tour is about. And then they finish, and then we're off. And that's really where you're uninterrupted. You can go at your own pace. God, you could stay in there for hours if you wanted to.
And we went to this bus that had been on fire. Somebody set that thing on fire, and they had that on display.
They had everything on display.
Everything.
They had the bus that Rosa Parks was on, pictures of the civil rights movement from Woolworths here in Greensboro, North Carolina. This is
Greensboro was on the map in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes.
Where these college boys,
college young men, and A&T. From
A&T, they were making a statement in a restaurant.
Here in Greensboro.
And I don't remember the name of the restaurant.
It's Woolworths.
Woolworths.
It was so brilliant how they laid it out. When you look at the museum on the outside, it does not look big at all.
No.
But every room, every space was accounted for. I mean, every room, every wall, there was pictures and timelines of dates. They didn't miss anything, it seemed. What I liked about this is that, you know how if you go down a tunnel, you're kind of forced to go one direction. But in this particular civil rights museum, it's one way. And everybody's going that direction, but they're going at their own pace because they're stopping and they're reading. So you remember the room where they had the walk in Selma? Do you remember that? You're going around, and then up on the wall, you're seeing all these pictures and you're seeing all these people. They're walking in Selma, and then you go around the corner into another room, and there's another part of history. The timelines keep growing, and it comes to the modern era of President Obama's time. And I'll never forget, I was so surprised when I got to the end. You get so lost in this beauty of this transition and this tour. And then all of a sudden, the very end, we were in the Lorraine Motel.
They've kept his rooms. He had 2 rooms. Didn't change a thing. And they had Precious Lord.
Yes, yes.
It was just powerful. I was crying.
Everybody was crying, honestly.
And I'm just remembering it.
I mean, how can you not? I remember that's an old hymnal, and that was one of my mom's favorite songs. I remember walking up, and then you realize, oh, shoot, we're in the hotel. How do we we're at the beginning to the hotel. And then you hear Precious Lord, and honey, there was not a dry eye in the place. But right in front of the rooms on the outside, there was a display of, no. It was a display of the description of the funeral and about the song choice. So this is one room on the side, and it's flowing in one direction, right? And then I don't know how you felt. And there is the balcony where Martin Luther King was shot. I'm just standing there thinking, I'm speechless. I'm speechless now. And I was speechless then because it's just so much sadness. My heart was heavy.
Yes.
But there were so many ranges of emotion. I was pissed when I started, and that subsided. And then I became inspired because of the history and seeing so many people fight for my right. And here I am. I didn't want to go. But I will tell you right now, I'm so grateful for my wife mentioning that. I'm so grateful that we chose to go into this direction, because this is one of the moments in the trip that I will never forget. It just keeps me going in the things that I want to do in life, to realize that these people, they sacrificed their lives for me and for so many other people on this earth. And it was such an empowering feeling to experience that. And so we finished the tour. We thought we finished the tour.
Yeah, we thought we finished. Well, there was more across the street.
I didn't pay much attention to it, but Cate did.
Well, you know what caught my attention? And we see this 1965 Mustang white, which they considered was the getaway car, but that's their car. I love that car. I wanted that car. I wanted to drive it away. But then,
yes, what it was
that was the hideout.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not even going to let you get away with that, honey, because let me tell you something. We see this guy. He's standing. I'm going to lay it out for you, which at one point I was saying, I'm not going up there. It's like, nope. It was so eerie to me. It was very eerie.
It was.
So you're seeing this door and you see this man, right? And he's just standing there. And Cate was like, well, why is he standing there? And then you see people kind of going in. And so she's the adventurous one when I'm not, and vice versa. And at that time I was like, I don't know about this one. So we go up and he's like, yeah, well, this is the second part of the tour. This is where the gunman stayed for days planning out his attack. We walk this long corridor, and then you see this decrepit elevator. And Cate was pushing the button. I was like, and it was all dark. I believe it was dark and stuff. And I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going in there. I'm not going to get stuck on some elevator. You crazy? Up in here? In this particular? No.
Well, I've been stuck on an elevator at the North Carolina.
Hello, see? Wherever it was, you didn't
It was
enjoy it.
stuck.
Okay, it was stuck. I mean, it's either take the elevator or the steps. Well, I'll be honest with you, the steps seemed like it was more creepy than the elevator. Well, thank God it wasn't that high. I think it was only, was it 2 flights up? And then you come and then it's like an open floor plan apartment. You come around the corner to your left, and then that's where you see this beautiful white convertible Mustang. It is gorgeous. It wasn't a convertible. It's a hardtop.
It was a hardtop.
And you see, again, you see a timeline from the moment or the idea of wanting to end Dr. Martin Luther King's life and who this person was. And
You see the
well, you see the bedroom first. You see the bedroom. It's a tiny room.
bathroom.
You see the bathroom and you see the window where he was, where he shot out. And then you turn around in the back of you. Then you see the display of the gun. You see the bullet. It was disturbing.
It was.
It was very, very disturbing. And I'll be honest with you, by
Cried
that
in
point,
that one too.
I was spent. I was mentally, emotionally spent.
That was a very powerful time.
Yeah, it was
For
one.
us,
Mhm.
you know, learning about the history of our African Americans, people that fought for rights.
It stays with you. I was speechless then because there was so much that you had to take in. But it was one of those moments where I just encourage anyone who's interested, the one who didn't want to go. Now I've seen the light. I mean, I can't imagine myself not ever seeing that.
You had to go.
Yes, it is one of those moments that
I was not going to let you not go because I know you would have regretted it.
this trip kind of peeled back the layers of fear. And it started with going to the Civil Rights Museum. And there was another moment, and I don't know if you even know it. So when we finished with the museum, we got back to the campsite and we were going to freshen up. And then
we lady.
Oh,
She was an inspiration.
her name was Holly.
Holly. All she did was camp.
Oh my goodness. Holly, I'm 52. Holly is probably a good 10 years older than me, maybe even a little bit. And at first, I went into the bathroom and I was freshening up. You know, my wife, she can talk somebody's head off like I can.
Normally, she's like, bye.
Yeah, so I was saying bye because I wanted to freshen up, but you were still talking when I came back out. But
She was intriguing.
she was so intriguing because Holly, let me tell you the story. I don't know if you remember the story, but she told us, we were telling her all what we were doing. She was so excited about our road trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were telling her that we were going to go to not Asheville. We were going to go to Austin, Texas. She was like, oh my God, I wish I would have known. I would have given you my house. We didn't know this woman from talking to Kate first and then myself. She was willing to give up her house just for us to stay for the 2 nights, but she had found somebody to rent it out.
Yeah.
But the reason why she was there, she was like, first of all, I've done the marriage thing. I've raised my kids. And now all I do is I look forward to going camping and going road tripping by herself.
By herself.
So she just came back from California. And so she stopped at this park. And, when Kate and I were driving out of the park, just to get some food and the gas and stuff, I remember seeing this little tent. I was like, what's the end of that? It was in the woods. And, in the woods, all these mosquitoes and stuff. And I was looking, I was like, it was this big. I was like, what's the end of that? Well, sure enough, it was Holly, and she was this big.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, yeah, I saw your tent. It's so big. I said, yeah, I saw your tent. I was like, wow, that was you, huh? But the story, do you remember when I was saying along the way, there are moments that were peeling back the layers of my fear?
Mm-hmm.
She was one of those moments.
Oh,
I know. Because
I wish we had her number.
I know, we never got it. But the story, and it's such an endearing, sad story, honestly. The reason why she was on that trip, she was going to British Columbia. And because of COVID, it was closed, right? But, this is in the heart of summer. Normally, Austin is so hot in mid-July, she starts to get anxiety attacks. And she was saying that the reason why it started was because her son, he was 15 years old and he was killed by one of those big garbage trucks. And so she said she had gone to doctors and she had found out that was her trigger. Like the heat in Austin triggers this anxiety attack. And so she has to leave. And
I forgot about that.
yeah, what was so endearing to me was that she was so forthcoming in telling us her story. She's this big, an older lady, and she was doing these things by herself. It was so inspirational. She was just telling us the story of, well, sometimes if I stay overnight or if I stay in a place that's for, say, a long weekend or a week or so, then I'll take a big tent like what you guys have. Today, I knew I was going to stay overnight, so I just had my little tent. And I said to her, Holly, are you afraid of bears out in the woods? Really? She looked at me. She was like, no. She said, I found if you don't mess with them, they don't mess with you.
And that's true. That is true.
Yeah. And that was what was from that conversation. I kid you not. It's just like that fear was kind of leaving me a little bit at a time just to see this woman who was out there by herself. She's traveling to British Columbia. She's traveling to all these places. She's hiking and camping in the wilderness by herself. It was so inspirational to hear this woman. I mean, just having the moments of the Civil Rights Museum and then also just at the very end of our stay in Memphis, Tennessee, and you see this woman, you hear this woman's journey.
Right. It was powerful.
It was very, very powerful.
God has a way of bringing the right people at the right time.
Yeah, it was true.
In your lives.
It was so true. Well, that was day 2. It was an emotional, fun. It was everything bottled up into one. And we had to get going for a night's sleep. And all through that day, I never had a cup of coffee, except for when we left. I had researched other coffee shops. We just didn't have the time. Like there's some other coffee shops that I wanted to see. Like there's this coffee shop called Butterific Bakery and Cafe. I wanted to try. I would love to try. And
There's
the French Truck Coffee House that I would love to try. But it was just that we just didn't have the time to go to see, to any other place. And we had to leave within 5 hours. So day 3, stay tuned because it was freaking exciting. See you soon, guys.
Hi, guys.
I'm Portia White, and I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. I'd like to give a special thanks to our sponsors, betterwithacupofcoffee.com and peaceteas.com. If you want to be a guest on our show, email me at cuppaconnections@gmail.com. And if you like what you heard, please rate and review our podcast and join us again soon on Cuppa Connections.